Now Chicago and Boston officials are readying for Trump's promise of more immigration raids. Immigration policies under the Trump administration are reshaping realities for migrants, green card applicants, and major U.S. cities. From mass turnarounds at the border to stalled visa processing and fears of intensified enforcement in urban centers, the effects are widespread and deeply felt. If you are interested in this topic, please pay attention and watch the video through to the end to get all the information. Please hit like and subscribe, and don't forget to push the notification bell for an upcoming video. Immigration enforcement has gone hand in hand with the Trump administration sending National Guard troops to Los Angeles and in the federal takeover of Washington, D.C. As residents of Chicago prepare to mark Mexican Independence Day with parades and events starting this weekend, immigration advocates, as well as state and city officials, are bracing for the celebrations to potentially coincide with a surge of immigration enforcement. We have reason to believe that Stephen Miller chose the month of September to come to Chicago because of celebrations around Mexican Independence Day that happen here every year, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said at a news conference Tuesday, referring to the senior White House aide who has been credited with driving President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. The governor added that he's deeply concerned that officials will specifically target the celebrations and Latino communities. Officials and advocates in Boston are also preparing for any attempt by Trump to ramp up immigration enforcement after Politico published a report Friday indicating Trump was preparing for an immigration crackdown in the city. NBC News hasn't independently verified the report, which cites an unnamed current and a former administration official. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey told in a statement Wednesday that what we are seeing from Donald Trump across the country isn't about public safety, it's about political intimidation. While there aren't yet concrete indications of exactly when additional law enforcement could be expected in those cities, immigration enforcement has gone hand in hand with the Trump administration sending National Guard troops to Los Angeles and in the federal takeover of Washington, D.C. Trump said late Tuesday that he would be going in to Chicago and that he had a right to go into the city to protect this country. The Trump administration has said the operations are necessary to bring down crime, although statistics show crime has been down in cities, including Los Angeles, Washington, and now Chicago and Boston. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement that it will go to wherever these criminal illegal aliens are, including Chicago and Boston. Under President Trump and Secretary Kristi Noem, nowhere is a safe haven for criminal illegal aliens. If you come to our country illegally and break our laws, we will hunt you down, arrest you, deport you, and you will never return. Pritzker, a Democrat, said Trump was positioning armed federal agents on federal property in the Chicago region and warned that he would send masked agents with immigration and customs enforcement, planning to raid Latino communities. In the coming days, we expect to see what has played out in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., to happen here in Chicago, Illinois, he said Tuesday. None of this is about fighting crime or making Chicago safer. For Trump, it's about testing his power and producing a political drama to cover up his corruption, Pritzker said. We are ready to fight troop deployments in court, and we will do everything possible to ensure that agents operating inside the confines of this state do so in a legal and ethical manner. Brandon Lee, the director of communications for the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, said the advocacy group's focus was on making sure its rapid response teams were ready, increasing the hours and staffing on its ICE enforcement hotline, providing information to people about their rights and connecting them to legal and social services. We are using this moment to promote the hotline, to make sure rapid response teams are prepared, and when the moment comes making sure that there is joint pushback against the Trump administration's overreach, he said. They have been employing new tactics to disrupt our communities and separate families. We're just ready to be nimble. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson said alongside Pritzker on Tuesday that violence in the city is not because we have too many immigrants, it's because we have too many guns. Johnson signed an executive order Saturday aimed at curbing the power of federal law enforcement officers and National Guard troops should Trump send them to Chicago. One of the main points of the order, Johnson said, was to direct the city's law department to use every legal mechanism to try to stop Trump's potential plan. The executive order also clarifies what actions police officers can take to assist federal law enforcement and says the police department won't collaborate with military personnel or civil immigration enforcement. Sophia Zaman, the executive director of the Raise the Floor Alliance, said its members have been checking in with leaders and flyering work sites, doing peer outreach and working arm in arm with other advocacy groups to prepare. Raise the Floor Alliance is a coalition of worker centers, including in immigrant communities where people are deeply impacted by the administration's policies, she said. We know that the city is facing historic lows when it comes to violence in the city, and what we really need is investments in healthcare and a thriving living wage and all kinds of benefits that really help stabilize our communities, not this kind of militarization, she said. We're going to equip our people, and we'll be ready, she said. The Trump administration has indicated that other Democratic cities could also be on the list. Noem told CBS News on Sunday that she would encourage every single big city, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, whatever they are, if they want to help make their city safer, more prosperous, allow people the opportunity to walk in freedom like the people of Washington, D.C. are now and enjoying going out to eat at night and not having to worry if they're going to be a victim of a carjacking or a robbery, they should call us. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu's office said it hasn't heard anything from ICE about a potential surge of enforcement in the city. Unfortunately, at this moment in our country, where we see this federal administration willing to take actions that push the boundaries of law or even step beyond the boundaries of law and our Constitution, I imagine every mayor of every major city is having to make some sorts of preparations, Wu told NBC Boston on Monday. Sarang Sekawat, the chief of staff at the Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition, said that while there are still questions about the timeline of what any surge in immigration officials would like, advocates in Boston have been following what has been happening in Los Angeles and Washington and will do the same with any potential operation in Chicago. We are in constant communication with organizations on the ground in those cities and across the country anyway, he said. It gives us sort of an idea of what we can expect. There is some attempt to provide a unified response to this around the country, he said. Healey, the Massachusetts governor and a Democrat, pushed back against Trump's stated goal of combating crime. He said he would go after the worst of the worst, but instead, he's going after farmers, construction workers, landscapers, nannies, healthcare aides, and restaurant workers, she said in a statement. This makes us all less safe, and it isn't helping our economy or lowering costs. That's what the president is trying to avoid talking about. U.S. halts EB-2 green cards. Of EB-2 employment-based green cards. Department of State? U.S. halts EB-2 green cards until September 30th. Here's why Indian applicants are hit hardest. The U.S. Department of State has officially confirmed a temporary halt in the issuance of EB-2 employment-based green cards until September 30, 2025. This decision affects thousands of applicants, particularly from India, who now face extended delays in their immigration process. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, in coordination with the Department of State, stated that the annual limit for the employment-based second preference (EB-2) category has been reached for the 2025 fiscal year. As a result, no further EB-2 visas will be issued until the beginning of the next fiscal year on October 1, 2025. EB-2 visas and their eligibility criteria. The EB-2 visa falls under the U.S. employment-based preference system, which allocates immigrant visas across categories to support the entry of skilled workers, professionals, and investors. EB-2 visas are specifically intended for individuals holding advanced degrees such as a master's degree or higher, or a bachelor's degree with at least 5 years of progressive experience, and individuals with exceptional ability in fields such as science, business, or the arts whose work benefits the U.S. national interest. As per U.S. immigration law, INA 203(b)(2), the EB-2 category is allocated 28.6% of the worldwide employment-based visa limit each year. Annual cap reached for FY 2025. According to the State Department, the EB-2 category has exhausted all available visas for the 2025 fiscal year. As reported by the Department of State, all EB-2 numbers have been used for FY 2025. No additional EB-2 visas will be issued until October 1, 2025, when the new fiscal year begins. Embassies and consulates have also been directed to pause EB-2 visa issuance until further notice. Visa processing will resume once the new annual quota is made available at the start of the 2026 fiscal year. Impact on Indian applicants. Indian nationals are among the most affected by this pause, as they already face long-standing backlogs in the EB-2 and EB-3 categories due to high demand and country-specific visa limits. The U.S. Department of State's Visa Bulletin for September 2025 indicates that there has been no movement in the final action dates for Indian EB-2 applicants. The final action date for India remains at January 1, 2013. This means only applicants with priority dates earlier than this can currently proceed with their applications. In contrast, applicants in the EB-5 investor category from India have seen some movement, with final action dates advancing in August 2025. However, this progress has not extended to those in the EB-2 or EB-3 categories. Visa availability snapshot by category. Resumption expected from October 1st. The Department of State has confirmed that the EB-2 category will reopen from October 1st, 2025, the start of the new fiscal year. From that date, eligible applicants will again be able to proceed with their green card applications, subject to visa availability and priority dates. USCIS has not issued any separate guidance on the matter as of now, but applicants are advised to monitor the monthly visa bulletin and official announcements from the Department of State. 14,000 migrants hoping to enter U.S. turn back, UN finds. A new report reveals that more than 14,000 migrants who had hoped to cross into the United States have turned back and reversed course due to the Trump administration's hardline border enforcement policies. The new phenomenon, referred to as reverse flow migration, has mainly impacted migrants fleeing the economic and political turmoil in Venezuela and who had been moving north through Central America toward the U.S. Since 2017, around 8 million people have fled the political crisis in Venezuela. The report, published by the governments of Colombia, Panama and Costa Rica with the support of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, said that northward migration had plummeted by 97% this year. "It's time to go back. The American dream wasn't like this," one migrant said, per the report. The report links the reversal to President Donald Trump's border policies, with 46% of migrants citing policy changes and 49% saying they could not enter the U.S. Another 34% ran out of resources and 17% feared detention or deportation. Migration through the treacherous Darien Gap on the border of Colombia and Panama peaked in 2023 when more than 500,000 migrants crossed. The report also blames U.S. financial reductions for drying up humanitarian aid. As a result, NGOs and UN agencies that were filling protection gaps in places like the Darien Gap and along return routes had to shut down or scale back operations. Additionally, tougher transit restrictions in Panama mean the traditional pipeline toward the U.S. is nearly shut. That flow slowed somewhat in 2024 but dried up almost completely early this year as President Trump fulfilled his campaign promise of shutting the border. Southwest border apprehensions hit a monthly record low in July, with only 4,399 apprehensions, according to the U.S. Border Patrol. For the third month in a row, there were 0 releases. This is the new all-time record low, beating the prior record low of 6,070 in June. Biden repeatedly had single days when apprehensions ranged from 8,000 to 10,000 migrants, with his highest single month being December 2023, when 249,785 Border Patrol apprehensions were recorded. The migrants who had hoped to reach the U.S. now find themselves in a difficult situation and some face violence, abuse and exploitation, the report states. Roughly 50% of those interviewed in Costa Rica, Panama, and Colombia said they intended to go back to Venezuela, with around a quarter of those interviewed planning to go to neighboring Colombia, previously the epicenter of the mass migration from Venezuela. Others said they didn't know where they were going. Some migrants will continue moving south within Latin America, but the report warns they face unsafe boat journeys, dependence on smugglers and criminal groups that prey on returnees.
How Chicago and Boston officials are redying for Trump promise of more immigration raids. The Trump administration has escalated immigration enforcement, deploying National Guard troops in Los Angeles, asserting federal control in Washington, D.C., and preparing ICE operations in Chicago during Mexican Independence Day celebration. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and local advocates warn of raids targeting Latino communities, while Boston leaders including Governor Maura Healey and Mayor Michelle Wu also brace for similar actions. Advocacy groups are mobilizing rapid response team and legal aid, arguing Trump's approach reflects a political intimidation rather than crime reduction, as the crime rate are already declining at the same time the U.S. State Department temporarily halted EB-2 green card issuances until September 30, 2025 after reaching the annual cap, disproportionality impacting Indian applicants stuck in a long backlogs. Separately, a UN-backed report reveals that over 14,000 migrants, mostly Venezuelans, have a reverse course due to Trump border shutdown, hitting policy barriers, lack of resources, and fear of deportation. Many are stranded in Latin America without aid, facing violence, exploration, and humanitarian crisis.